Hi, it's Jared from Strong Roots Farm. Today we're going to talk about my favorite tool that I've made. So it's my homemade tool. I made this tool that helps me with rotational grazing. And if you're not aware of what that is, we move cattle daily through the grass on this regenerative farm that we live on. When you move them, you have to move fence and you have to move water. And today I'm going to show you with my favorite cheap homemade tool that helps me with this. That's coming up. All right, well, before I show you this tool, this thing that I made, I'm gonna let you know I have about $80 into it. So I've spent 80 bucks and it's become my favorite tool. As we rotationally graze, we pick up the fence, we move it. And so you see a lot of guys doing this and they're using a gator and a side-by-side or whatever they're using, a tractor, four-wheeler, and they have lots of stakes. You have hose reels, perhaps a water tank, lots of water hose that always gets dangled up, and you're moving all this stuff every time. And so it's important to have processes and equipment that can help you be efficient and fast with this and keep organized. It's a pain in the butt to untangle, whether it be our poly braid wire, whether it be the water hoses, all those things. And so I just happen to have this piece of equipment and I modified it and made it into something that was really going to save us a bunch of time. So obviously we have our gator here. I didn't make this. And what we do is we pull our Mobil hose reel. This was very simple. I found this old axle, and I think this is from some kind of an old hay wagon, but it also has like a gear cylinder in it. So it might've been for some kind of old car. I'm not even sure, but this was left here as trash when we bought the farm, and it's all rusted out. I didn't think it would last very long, but you could make this out of anything. You could make it out of wood if you needed to with wheels from TSC, but it's simply a running gear wheel that's tied into an axle, and I put a ball hitch on the end of it. Just drilled some holes and bolted that in that so it hooks really easily. What is this cow mooing about? I don't understand. We just moved them, so apparently she just wants to ruin my video, but it just moved. This water hose reel moves really easy. So between the braces here, I had a 6x6. You definitely don't need anything that heavy, but it was scrap. From when we built the barn, I didn't know I could use that for anything else except for maybe to jack trailers up or something. And then I had a scrap piece of 2x8 or 2x12. Actually, that's a 2x10. And I screwed that down on top to make a flat thing. And then I bought this reel. And so I tried to buy a high-end reel, and I bought this off Amazon. I'm not going to share a link with you or tell you that you need to buy this reel. It really doesn't matter. I did try to buy an all-metal reel that seemed like it had good fittings on it and things like that. It is stainless. It's been good. It's better than a plastic one for sure, but it's not really my favorite reel. But I think I spent $40 or so on this, maybe 35 even. I didn't buy the $100, fire hose one. I didn't buy an expensive one, but I didn't buy the plastic cheapo, neighborhood on the side of your house reel either. So you buy a reel, you attach it to here, and then I put a different style water hose on it. This is not your standard 3/4 or 5/8 garden water hose. This is actually meant to be air lines for air tools from your air compressor. It's Goodyear 300 PSI rubber hose. It is 1/2 inch. It's very small. And so I use this. I really like it. It withstands a lot of bending. It withstands pressure. It doesn't dry rot. It is woven, so it has kind of a fiberglass or rope fiber into the rubber itself. So it's lasted and been drug over a lot of stuff, stepped on all kinds of things. It's been really good as a water hose for me. There are pros and cons with switching to this kind of hose. And so for me, I'm going to go over the pros because the main reason I did it is because I could get so much more length of hose on this reel. So this hose reel was made to hold 100 foot of garden hose, but I can get about 100, I think there's 160 feet of this airline hose on here because it's such smaller in diameter. The con to it is definitely the water pressure though, because it has such a smaller inner diameter, the water doesn't come flowing out at a high volume. It doesn't really affect me a whole lot because once I get water into my tanks, it continually fills all day long. It goes on and off with a valve. We have a 75, 150, and a 300-gallon Rubbermaid that we interchange, and I've got several of each actually. I prefer the smaller one because we waste less water, but once this thing gets half full, they can't drink it faster than the water is going on in. So it's going to remain full for the cattle. Our pressure is pretty decent out here. We do have 2-inch line buried in the ground. So from the hydrant, I have good pressure, but you get because of this smaller hose with that length of line on it, you do get a lower volume of water that comes out at a time. The other pain with this was that the fittings weren't really natural. You had to modify and find fittings. And so what I ended up doing was finding some barb fittings that I got to fit in here that had a threaded end on them, and then I put these quick connects on it. And so I'm not going to recommend these either to you. I like the ones that I've bought, and I've bought 5 or 6 different brands from Amazon, but I wouldn't recommend them because I don't think it's necessarily the best. I haven't nailed that down as this is the beat all end all quick connect. These are my favorites so far, but you know, there are probably better things out there. I'm spending probably $10 on a pack of 3 or 4 when I buy those from Amazon. Now the other end of hose came with the reel, so it has my garden hose typical, you know, screw-on nub that we hook right to our hydrants. And so basically, whether I'm using the Filmac pipe that we have throughout the farm or I'm using a hydrant that we have in some places, I pull this up to that area, and usually I don't let the cows get against this reel. So the reel is here and the cows are up that way, and I just roll the hose out and then pull the hose away from them. Usually my water tanks are at my high tensile, or not my high tensile, my poly braid wire. And so they never really get against this. I try to keep them from stepping on this, but at times it has happened. They have been in an area where it was the only hydrant I had. And so you can rope off around it, but sometimes I've just let them get in here. And I have become to the practice that I want to rope this off just because they get manure on it or whatever. I try to keep it nice. The other thing I did to modify this reel was it came together. You screwed these screws in, and they were fine, and it's probably fine for a house setting or a garage setting, and that's what it's meant for. But as you bounce and beat and bang this thing around in a pasture, the screws are going to come out. So I learned the hard way and lost a screw and had to find a matching screw for it. And then I ended up taking the entire thing apart, taking every one of these screws out, and then putting Loctite on them and putting them all back in with Loctite. And I haven't had any problems since then. So I would probably recommend that. You obviously don't Loctite the reel, anything that spins, but all of these screws that hold the guards and all that stuff, I put Loctite and put it on pretty thick, let it dry, then put it in, and I haven't had anything vibrate out since then. But that was kind of really the only issue I've had with this thing, was I lost a screw from bouncing around. Now this isn't the be all end all. I mean, I still have other things to deal with. I've got a barrel with my stakes in them. I throw my reels in the back of the gator. There's still other things, but untangling hose and dragging hose around and dragging it through manure and all the other things, and then you slide your hand on the manure and then you got to wash your hand off. I got rid of all that with this. And so it's been a very useful tool. For $80, I found the airline at a very good price, free, and I put all that together, you know, so I've got 80, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but for that price, this is a great tool. And you can really, you know, go hog wild with how you would build something to this. It doesn't have to be fancy. If you had a wagon that you pulled behind your gator that had your fence posts and everything on it, you could mount a hose reel on it just like this and use a wagon with a four-wheeler or a wagon with your gator even. And that way, all that stuff was always on the same trailer. If I had an apparatus like that, I'd probably put my fence tools on there and have toolboxes with stuff, as long as you could keep the cattle away from it. But for me and the price, this is a great thing. So I hope that helps you as far as, you know, think outside the box and make something that works good for you. Well, there you have it. As an engineer, I love finding junk and turning it into something useful. Nothing pretty about this. I didn't have any fancy designs, didn't have to use CAD or anything, but I'm really happy with this tool. It is my favorite homemade tool that I have made so far. I've made some other stuff homemade but I feel like I'm not going to mention that they're my designs because I stole the design from somebody else and replicated it. We do have the shade structure that everybody likes. We do have the Mobil pig pen, and I built all that stuff, but it was really off of somebody else's idea. Whereas I've never seen one of these before. I feel like this was kind of my idea, and it was from such junk that I really repurposed it. I really feel good about, you know, whatever that axle came off of. I really feel like I've used it to the end of its life. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. That really does help our channel. Keep following along and let me know if there's anything else I can show you here on the farm. I do have some upcoming videos that I've been requested to make, and so I am working on those. Hopefully here in the next week we'll get all those out. Till then, have a good night.